Welcome to Dracaena Wines Podcast. Our wines plus your moments equals great memories. I'm your host, Lori, and this is a podcast about all things wine. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Dracaena Wines on Wine. In this series, I sit down with someone in the wine industry and discuss how they are pursuing their passion. They get to tell their story of how they got to where they are, their highlights and lowlights. A behind-the-scenes look at their life in wine. In this episode, I sit down with a few people in the wine industry that help make your consumption a more pleasurable experience. My first guest is Ryan Frederickson, creator of Art Wine Preserver. So sit back, grab a glass of your favorite wine, and enjoy. Sláinte. So everybody, welcome to Dracaena Wines on Wine. And in this episode, we are going to be talking to a group of people who have a passion for wine, but in a different way. They are making your experience of drinking wine better by their technology, their gadgets that they have created in order to just make our lives nicer with wine. And so today, I have Ryan Frederickson of Art Wine Preserver. And so welcome. How you doing?
Doing good out here in now sunny Chicago. Finally had spring, but things are good. Thanks for having me on.
All right, so let's start talking about your amazing product. You said that you had a trip to Sonoma that was the springboard to you leaving your corporate job and to start the art preservation system. So first, what was your corporate job? And secondly, what exactly about Sonoma triggered your inspiration?
So I was straight out of school. So I went to school as an engineer at Purdue University. And right out of it, I started working for a company called Air Liquide. It's a French company that we manufactured argon, nitrogen, oxygen, for everything from like wineries that use those products to prevent oxidation in their in the fermentation process and the bottling process, to we were helping out pretty much every industry, even electronics groups like Texas Instruments. And my role within the company straight out of school ranged. I kind of moved around a lot. I was in logistics for a while, and then I went into operations support, which was a much more traditional engineering route. And then actually we bought a company called Airgas while I was there, and they moved me to the merger and acquisition team for a little bit to assist with that. And that's where I was when I was starting to get into wine. And it was a French company, L'Air Liquide. We were the American branch of L'Air Liquide, and which stands for Air Liquid. And I really liked going to the tasting bars, but I didn't really drink a whole lot of wine at home, actually, because I was a single guy. And five glasses of wine on a weeknight is a bit of a...
Just a wee bit.
I mean, I'm not in college anymore. I gotta cut back, and if I wanted to have 2 different bottles of wine, it was, that's quite a bit of wine. And I love craft beer. And very fancy coffee, so it was natural. Once I finally started into wine, I knew that I could solve the issue of it spoiling on me. I mean, it was just the same systems we were developing and selling to, at a very big scale, and just, hey, I think I could scale this down and give it to my friends, give it to my girlfriend, and have her be able to preserve her wines, but really, when it went from I can do this to I will do this was like I said, when I went to Sonoma and actually took time to hang out around the vineyards, watch people actually checking the vines, which was so, it's such a great experience. And I had been around so many other industries. There's something about it being an agricultural piece, a process piece, and then also like a sales and marketing side, and that there's a huge culture from the grapevines all the way through until it's picked up by somebody. It kind of got me inspired to actually, hey, I need to I need to protect this. When I open a bottle of wine, I'm going to drink every single drop, because I watched somebody, like, break their back making this. So that's kind of the background of what got me to here today.
That's awesome, and it is true. Well, it's a big difference that what you're probably drinking in college versus what you were drinking outside of college versus what you're drinking now, And I think the big thing is as your palate develops and you realize there's differences in wine, your wallet opens a little bit more to wines, and then you're almost too timid to open the wine because you've spent the extra money on the wine. So you need something, because you also, at that point, you don't want to drink, like you said. You're no longer drinking 6 glasses of wine. You want to enjoy the wine. So.
Exactly, and that was the biggest surprise for me. When I launched the Art Wine Preserver, I thought it was going to be singles like myself and wine professionals, and that was going to be essentially our whole market. But we're actually a lot more like couples that just want to drink a glass each is a big part of our market, or people that have a significant other that doesn't share the bottle with them. I had a cousin that said, "Hey, I love drinking wine with my friends," and her husband, my other cousin, he's a Scotch drinker, and she's like, "Hey, I really do like wine, but we don't have the money to just buy a $15 bottle of wine and have half of it, end up going down the drain." So it was very surprising to see how many other people had that experience of, I want wine, or they want better wine, but they don't want the risk of it going to waste.
Right.
That's actually been really cool to see. You're letting people, you're letting people actually enjoy more, and that's why we kind of started the tagline, "Hey, we're letting people enjoy more and waste less." I mean, we might as well trademark that and get it as a tag, since that's what we're doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So during your research, you found that home consumers pour about $1.5 billion of wine down the drain. That's like scary that it's that much money. Do you think that's an underestimate, an overestimate? That blows my mind. $1.5 billion down the drain just blows my mind.
Yeah, so that was essentially a market analysis I did for just to prove to myself that the problem was big. A lot of the data, and without going too deep into it, I actually wrote an article that's on our website about it. So if you just look up on our website the $1.5 billion of wine that goes down the drain, or that is dumped every year, we actually break down how we found those numbers. But basically, there's been some studies in the United Kingdom about how much wine goes down the drain, and more or less, I assume that we're as wasteful as our partners over in Britain, which I think is an underestimation, actually, considering the few times I've been over there. The Europeans tend to be a little bit more conservative in terms of protecting things and not throwing things away. So I think it's about as accurate as I could have gotten the number, while leaning towards something that conservative in that I think, said, hey, I know that we're dumping at least this amount, so that's why I'm going to start a business that tries to reduce that number.
That is, I think it's an underestimate too, and I agree. I think we're much more toss-worthy people, I guess, tossing things than over there. All right, so your technology uses Argon. Okay, so explain to the listeners, how does Argon preserve the wine left in a bottle? I open a bottle. What does Argon do?
So Argon itself it's actually a gas that's present in the atmosphere that we breathe right now, just in small quantities. It's about a little bit less than 1% of the atmosphere right now. What we do is we have pure Argon. It's the way that we use it in industry, whether it's food, whether it's wine, is we use it as a as a molecule that takes up space. So it just fills up space. It doesn't react. It's non-toxic. It doesn't oxidize things. It doesn't degrade things. But it does take up space, and it's very dense. But what happens is if you put it into something like, say, a bottle of wine, what it's going to do is it's going to sink down to the bottom, and it's going to displace pretty much everything except for the aroma molecules and move it away from the wine. What we can do is you end up with your liquid wine in the bottle. Actually, if you want to get super technical, the VOCs, the volatile organic compounds that make it smell really nice, those are your next most dense layer. And then the argon gas sits right above that, and then your air mixture, your oxygen, nitrogen, which will degrade the wine if it's touching it, is above that. So basically, it just creates a protective layer between your wine and the air.
It's like a little snuggly blanket for your wine.
We call it inert. In the industry, we called it an inert blanket.
Hey.
So it was inert blanket technology or modified atmosphere packaging technology. That's how you talk to an engineer about it, but it's all the same premise. We just decided to use argon, which as opposed to something else, because it's dense. And it's about as big as you can get in terms of molecule size, and it's not going to react at all. Versus like some people had tried similar systems with, like, say, CO2. The problem with CO2 is it'll actually dissolve into the wine and create it'll change the acidity. But we didn't want to do that.
That wouldn't be good.
No, and it's one of those we've actually had issues with people looking at our system and saying, "Oh, I tried CO2 and it didn't work." I said, "Well, CO2 doesn't work the same way. It's it's the wrong molecule to use for this application." So the background at Air Liquide really helped with this with creating this product.
So I see. I'm so happy. I'm like, it's a little blanket, and you're calling it an inert blanket. See, look at that.
It is a blanket. That's I'm sure some marketing person thought of that once upon a time, like 50 years ago or something.
The little bit of chemistry, well, it's actually quite a bit of chemistry, more than I really wish I had to take, but it's there. I have to dig at it sometimes, but it's there. So compare your product to the Coravin, because I'm assuming that that's probably your biggest competitor, even though the price is way, way different. I mean, Coravin's like $300+ or whatever, but it basically works off of the same concept, right? I believe Coravin is also argon, correct?
Yeah, the major difference is, and I'll start by saying I'm an engineer, and I think that it's a slick system. It really is. We kind of go after different market segments. I find it's, we say, hey, you open a bottle of wine. For 10 to 20 cents, you can preserve that wine for 7 to 30 days. That's what we promise. We say that we have the easiest way to keep your wine fresh. Coravin says that you can keep it for years. And that's, for some people, if you have a cellar and you need to keep it for a couple of years, our product isn't right for you. If you're, what we thought when we looked at the market is people really just need some extra time, and they need it to be really easy. And you'll be able to pull the cork, which is a big difference with us. Is for the art wine preserver, you pull the cork, you drink as much as you want. You can decide. You don't have to decide until you're done drinking. Oh, we're actually going to preserve it. You apply a 2-second dose of argon gas. You seal the bottle, and you're done. And you can start for $14.99, not hundreds of dollars. So it's the same space, but we definitely are coming at it to more your novice to average, sometimes even your expert wine preserver. We've certainly displaced quite a few Coravin systems even since launching, which surprised me. Just because we're so quick, it's such an easy system to use for us. So a lot of restaurants we're finding are very happy to switch to something a little bit more cost effective and a lot easier to use, which I believe the art wine preserver is.
Yeah, so I do have the Coravin, and I use the Coravin when I'm going to pour to a tasting event where I'm pouring for a restaurant or I'm pouring something for my wine, because I don't want to open that cork. Because I'd be broke if I opened a cork. If I go to a tasting today, I go to a tasting next week. If I'm opening up a bottle every time, I'd be broke. So I use the Coravin in the professional aspect of it, but then on the day-to-day thing, I use your product because it is easy. And in all honesty, I don't think I've ever had a bottle of wine that I've opened that 30 days later, I still had that same bottle of wine. So it's usually I open it, if I open it on a Monday, by Friday, it's gone, and it is super, super simple. And so you had said that it's 2 seconds thing. So that was going to be my question is, and it's in the directions, but do you find that people have the tendency to over use it? It's like 1, 2. No, it's got to be more than that. And is it always 2 seconds, no matter how much you drank?
Yeah, so all good questions, which we actually get a lot, and we're trying to figure out how to make it clear. Basically, we actually did a lot of primary research on how much argon you need in a bottle of wine to create that layer, that blanket. Something we actually have a patent pending on that dose, because I didn't realize that it was unique within the industry. So we're going to see if we can get a little bit of protection against that so that we don't have copycats. And the 1 to 2 second dose, which we typically just say 2 because we find people are very quick when they count.
They don't say the Mississippis.
Yeah, it's the 1, 2, and you're like, 2 seconds is a lot longer than that. And if you don't do at least a second, you run the risk that it's not actually going to create a protective layer. And we don't want people to underuse for 2 reasons. One, because if you underuse it to the point where there's hardly any argon in there, it's not going to work, and that makes us look bad. So we try to push for, hey, it's 1 to 2 seconds. If you're doubting, just do 2 seconds. Maybe you'll spend an extra dime on gas, but hopefully you're protecting, a $10 or more bottle of wine, so it's not a problem. So that, and it doesn't matter, to answer your second question about the, how much wine is it. So if it's, what we're really doing is we're creating a certain thickness of argon in the bottle that protects it. So whether you have, just a glass left in the bottle, or if you only took a glass out, you need the same amount. So it's the 1 to 2 second, no matter how much is left.
Right, because you're not filling the bottle's space, you're creating that blanket.
Yeah, so if we were to use something like nitrogen, we would need to displace all of the air, but we don't. We use a heavy gas like argon, which is another reason why we chose that gas.
Okay. So my other question is with argon is, so I'm bi-coastal, so I'm in Jersey and I'm in California, so I need 2 Coravins because you can't fly. Well, you can fly with the Coravin, but you can't fly with the capsules. And I'm just not bringing the Coravin back and forth because then the needle will break. Can you fly with your can? Can we shove it in a suitcase and as long as it's packed?
If it's so, my legal disclaimer answer is you can put it in you're legally allowed to check it. So it can go on passenger aircraft checked. However, as we found, because we can ship these in the air with special packaging, but it's very uncommon. So depending on how frisky the TSA is, I for one never do because I don't want my bag to get held. Because the art wine preserver is a white can with green writing on it. that looks like, unfortunately, being an engineer, I didn't see this. I didn't have a marketer on the team at the time. It's one of those things that I wouldn't try to continue to do that. It's only, it's $14.99 for me to ship you one wherever you're going, not to worry about that. So I have a very, our logistics and shipping is down pat. Taking it on an airplane, you're just like any piece of luggage. Like if you're bringing wine on an airplane, you're really at the mercy of the TSA. So I don't personally recommend it with really anything anymore. I've had too many things broken in transition.
I know. I just came back from Bordeaux, and I was gifted 2 very nice bottles of Cavant de Jacobins. And when I came home, I was opening my suitcase with shaking hands to hope that it was still okay. And I opened it and they were there, first of all. And secondly, they weren't broken. So I was very, very happy. I took a picture. I put it on social media. They made it. They made it. So I get what you were saying. Yes. But I was talking more safety wise. Like it's not, the gas is okay too.
Yeah, it's a non-toxic, non-flammable gas. It is under pressure. So it is, you can't take it in a backpack on an airplane. That's not allowed. They will confiscate it for that reason. But yeah, there's no, it's an inert gas. It takes up space, but it is under pressure. So you can't bring it on an airplane where the pressure could drop, and that could be a problem.
Right.
At least not with passengers around you.
Right. Kind of equivalent to the old hairspray, aerosol hairspray, right? You can't take that, or I don't think you're supposed to take that with you on a carry-on.
No, it's significantly more safe than that, but that's kind of why I don't recommend bringing it, because people automatically assume if it's in a metal can,
it's
they assume that it's flammable.
Right.
Is what I've found, which it's not. It actually, Argon will put out
fires.
So.
Right.
It is not, another legal disclaimer, Argon preserver is not a fire extinguisher. Just anybody trying to do a lot of things, but I am not going to, claim that at all.
Okay. So, in terms of claiming, it kind of leads right in. So, on your can, it says, full can feels empty. Okay? And to me, as a scientist, that's common sense, but I get that you have to do it. But I love when products say things like that are, to me, so obvious, like the Pop-Tart, remove from foil container before putting in toaster oven. Like, obviously, So I always say that the Pop-Tarts, somebody put the foil in the toaster, burnt down their house, sued Pop-Tarts or Kellogg's, and now they put that on the box. So have you gotten calls of either people who haven't read the can, or, you ship me an empty can,
At all, constantly. That's our number one reason why we're not more prevalent in retail right now. We're trying to find workarounds that hopefully we'll go through soon. But our number one problem in terms of a physical store sale is that people pick it up and they're used to products being very heavy. And I've talked to many product producers. You'd be surprised how many products there are out there that have a weight in them.
That's what I was going to say. Just put a rock in there.
As an engineer, it hurts my heart to lie to my customers. I'm trying to find something I'm trying to find a way that is more honest than sticking a rock in it. Because I know I've picked up a box of, I don't even know what it was, like lotion or something before, like hand lotion, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is a really hefty thing, and then you open it the first time and just like a piece of lead falls out, and that just makes you feel like you're lied to. So we're trying to find a way around that, but it is certainly so the Art Wine Preserver is very light compared to its size, because it is just a container full of argon gas. It's denser than air, but it's it's not liquid. It's not super heavy. So we have to tell people quite often, hey, if you don't hear it coming out, if you're spraying it into your bottle, you should be able to hear it at least a little bit. It's not really loud, but the other way that people can check if it has anything in it is if you squeeze it, it should be rigid. Because once it starts to get empty, you can actually start to dent it with your hands. So,
okay.
That seems to help. Not sure if we're going to actually put that on the can or make some videos for it, but yeah, we get a lot of calls. So, and before you make fun, I'm sure as a kid, I had friends that would have done that. I'm sure. I almost thought removed from. I've been hungry before and ended up with pieces of packages in the mouth. You said that you were off the air that you were an athlete once upon a time. You just have to look at how are people using your product, and nobody's an expert in your product but you. So we have to put full can feels empty to try to say, hey, try the product. It works.
Right.
If for some reason it doesn't, we've had packages run over by trucks on their way to customers, so those products didn't work very well by the time they got there. So, but we've always taken care of that. It's gotten less so, honestly, now that we have quite a few reviews on Amazon, and I think that because we don't get as many calls as we used to. I think it's just
people are learning.
People are either learning or they give us the benefit of the doubt the first time use, and it works really well. So people are like, oh, that's great. If I call somebody just to ask them for feedback, they still say it was disconcerting at first because it was lighter than I was expecting.
Right. Right.
So we're full can feels empty is what we put on there to try to alleviate a little bit of that.
You had mentioned that when it's empty, you can almost squeeze the can. So that's probably a big problem, I guess, in terms of if I'm spraying this, if it's a liquid, I know when the liquid is getting lower. But how does a customer know that, oh, it's time for me to order a new can?
Yeah. So and it's not. We can get up to 50 bottles preserved with it. So it's not like if it was a 2-time use, people would be able to count that. It also wouldn't be a whole lot of value for their money.
Right.
So we want to make sure it has a lot of uses out of it. But the easiest, with me personally and the people that I know that use it a lot, it's either you listen and you can hear that it's almost empty, or you squeeze it, and once you start to be able to dent a little bit, that's usually about 25% left once you can start feeling it give a little bit.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's a good tip then, but I guess that scientifically that makes sense. The pressure is no longer, the gas is no longer in there pushing against the walls of the can. But all right, good. All right. And then how does, well, you answered that in terms of how do we know there's enough because we're just doing the blanket. So my last question is just tell me, how can people find you on social media? Where are you? And most importantly, how do they place that order?
Well, so we are pretty active, especially on Twitter, trying to get a little bit more active on Instagram. You can follow us at Art Wine Preservation on Instagram, Art Wine Preserve on Twitter. We post almost daily things within the industry. If we're ever in the, we post something like this, or we find something interesting about trends or the way people are trying to drink wine, we share that. And then our website, of course, is a great place to place an order. It's artwinepreservation.com. And we are on Amazon in case you heard of that way. You search for the Art Wine Preserver. It's ART. And as you know, Lori, which you think is hilarious, and I get made fun of by people in my inner circle, the product stands for Argon technology. That's the AR, the atomic symbol of Argon, and the T for technology. So hopefully that helps your listeners remember.
Yeah, I need to talk to your buddies or whatever, because I don't think you should be making fun of that. I think it's brilliant. It caught my eye immediately, and I knew exactly what was going on with it. So I think it's a brilliant name. So you can tell them that Dracaena Wine says, "Shut up, it's good."
I will. I'll say it exactly that way.
There you go. There you go. As with every episode of Dracaena Wines on Wine, I always end it with a little playing of a game of opposites. So no thinking necessary. You just say what pops into your brain of one or the other of what I say. All right. And since it is a wine show, it does have to be wine related. But to get you into the groove, I kind of do non-wine stuff first. All right.
Okay.
All right. So night or day?
Day.
Okay. There's no right answer. It's whatever you.
Am I already failing? That's the question.
Just whichever pops in your head. No, there's no right or wrong answer. No right or wrong answer.
To be fair, I didn't hear the first one.
Oh.
I think that she asked me to pick either night or day, but I couldn't hear. So that's.
All right.
I fell during warm-ups.
Okay. Sunset or sunrise?
Sunrise.
Okay. Black or white?
Black.
Walk or run?
Run.
You are the first person to say run.
That is in the Boston Marathon. I have to say that.
That is awesome, because my answer totally would be run, and every person I ask is like walk. I'm like, oh, come on. I need to meet more hyper people.
You found one.
Boston Marathon. Congratulations. That's awesome. That is awesome. See, this is why we do this game. We learn all new things about people.
Apparently.
Food or drink?
Drink.
Okay. Old world, new world?
Old world.
Oh. Sweet or dry?
Dry.
Bubbles or still?
Still.
Oak or stainless?
Oak.
Drink now, drink later?
Why not both?
Ah. Good. That's definitely a plausible answer.
If I had to choose, I would say later. I'm always about looking forward to something.
So, typically, and again, my 2 classes of psychology do not give me any credit whatsoever. So unqualified. But what I've noticed is people who say old world do drink later. People who say new world drink now. So, and it kind of makes sense, but again, I'm not sure if that's a true positive stat with, actual.
I don't have enough data points yet.
Yeah. Blend or varietal?
I like blends.
Vintage or non-vintage?
Vintage.
Okay, cork or screw cap?
Screw cap.
Napa or Sonoma?
Sonoma.
I should start asking Paso, but I have a feeling most people will not pick the Paso, even though it's the best place on earth.
No bias there.
No bias whatsoever. Commercial or indigenous?
Indigenous. That's such a hard one to think about.
It is a tough one. That's a tough one.
Not enough experience, I would say. For me personally.
It is a tough one. It is a tough one. Bordeaux or Rhone?
Rhone.
Oh. Warm climate, cool climate?
Cool.
Cool climate?
Mostly. It depends on, I like cool whites, but warm reds. It's weird. At least in general.
That's not weird.
Sweeping generalization.
That's not weird. It's when we are proponents of drink what you like and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So if that's what you like, that's what you like. And you know what? You could be, we like warm climate, kind of obvious, but that doesn't mean we don't drink cool climate either, or vice versa, So, but thank you so very much. And I really, from the first time I saw your product, I thought it was a great product. And then when I got to use it, it proved it's a great product. It definitely stores the wine. And like I said off air, my wine doesn't last that long, when it's opened. But for me, the amount of time it's there, I've never had an issue with it. And I think it preserves it very well. And I love that it's kind of science geeky stuff that helps me drink wine. So that's always good.
Perfect. Well, I'm glad we could help you, and I really appreciated this. This was a really fun chat.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I had a great time, and it's great to finally see your face. We've been chatting behind the scenes a bit, so there you go. Vogue it up. So it was great to see you, to talk to you, and thanks for sharing your passion with us.
All right. Thank you so much.
My next guest is Maire Murphy, co-owner of CapaBunga. After 50-plus combined years in the wine industry, Maire and Walt decided it was time to go out on their own and create accessory products that not only were functional, but simple to use. Join me as I talk to Maire about how CapaBunga and CapaBubbles came to fruition and how they are involved in the ongoing Sonoma Strong campaign. Hi, everybody. So we are into the second section of Dracaena Wines on Wine and wine tools and wine accessories. And tonight I have Maire Murphy, who is co-owner of CapaBunga. So hi, Maire. How are you doing today?
Hi, Lori. I'm great. How are you?
I am good. CapaBunga, a tool or an accessory that I use, both your CapaBunga and your CapaBubbles. And I wanted to reach out to you and to find out a little bit more about you and to share the word of your amazing product. So thank you very much for taking the time out to speak with me.
No problem. Happy to chat.
All right.
Anytime I can talk about CapaBunga all day long.
That's what I like. Yeah, I can talk about Dracaena wines all day long too.
Cool.
So first, you were a wine sales rep in New England, and Walt was a VP of sales and marketing for a California wine company. So opposite sides of the coast, somehow, some way, your paths crossed. How did that happen?
Well, I worked for a distributor in New England, and one of the wineries we represented was Deloach Vineyards, and there was an incentive trip to win a trip to California. We always went to wine-producing regions, and so I knew some of the people. Actually, the funny story about Deloach was there was a lady who worked in New England for Deloach, and she wanted me to be her roommate. So she said, "Why don't you come out early?" And she thought it would help the sell job of me becoming a roommate. So that's how I met Walt, because we went to Cecil Deloach's house on Sunday before this incentive trip, and there I met Walt, and we were friends for a number of years. The roommate who did become my roommate was his New England rep, so every time he would come to the market to work with her, we'd hang out. So that's how we got to know each other.
So a little bit more about you. You were the first woman to sell wines to be a salesperson of wine for that company in New England. So
that's right. Yeah.
With all of the conversation, which I kind of have two opinions on of why there's all this, or should we have all this conversation of women doing this, but all the conversation about women in the wine industry, I have to ask you about the accomplishment. Like, how did you, or what did you say? Like, how did you feel about that?
Yeah, because it was, I think I was a trailblazer at the time. I was pretty young. When I went to work for the company, I worked in their marketing department. So, we did wine lists, we did trade shows, tastings at the, Copley Plaza Hotel. I did a lot of that stuff. But, I felt like I was a den mother for this male sales force that they had. And so that kind of what happened was someone, from another company, an importer, came and said, "Have you ever thought about sales?" And well, actually I have. And so they offered me a job, because I thought I'll never work for sales in this company. And they offered me a job. And then what happened was, when I went to give my notice, the company's like, you're not going anywhere. If you're going to sell, you're going to sell for us. And so that's how I started. But in the early days, I was pretty much, wearing high heels, jumping off the loading dock, carrying cases in my high heels. Of course, I figured that out before too long. So, had to get with the program and wear a little flatter. But yeah, I managed and, did it I sold wine for 8 years in New England.
So while you were there, did they then hire more females while you were there?
They did. I mean, it took a little while. So, I was the lone, female in the room, hearing all the kind of bad jokes and watching the pucker schmucker, dressed up booby girl come in to show off something. But they have gone on to hire other females, and they're now one of the biggest distributor in New England. It's Martinelli Groceries. I'm not sure if it's called grocery, but it's Martinelli's, and they're a big company. And I think they even have some females in managerial positions. I haven't kept up with it as well as I should.
So after that, you and Walt decided to start making wine in 2001.
We did. Yes, exactly. Born in 99, we got married in 2000, and then, instead most people start families, we started a business. So we decided we wanted to start a negociant business, which, for some of your listeners, of course, will know what that is, but some won't. And it's basically when you purchase juice that is not finished, and then you blend it together and you make a wine. So at that time, 2001, there was nobody really doing, Cameron Hughes wasn't really started yet. At least we didn't know if they were. And there wasn't anybody doing kind of high-end negociant wines. And so that's what we set out to do. So, and we really targeting premise. So we started with the Russian River Chardonnay, and our whole goal was to have it be a by the glass program wine. And we started with 5,000 cases, and that's started from there. Yeah,
started with just a mere 5,000 cases.
I know, just 5,000 cases. I know.
Oh my gosh!
But, mortgage the two houses or take seconds on.
Wow, I'm thinking jumped in at 5,000 cases. Holy cow! Mike and I.
If you think about it, the negociant's a different level of jumping in. It's not 2 years of having
that's
barrels
true.
And all that. It's so that's a different level.
Yeah. That is true. Now, how was it? I know what it's like because we don't farm, and I don't ever want to farm. I will leave that to the people who are specializing in that.
Right.
So I know the process, and I've written about the process of what it was like to be, to meet the farmers and to come up with contracts for that. How do you negotiate for juice? Is it the same way?
Well, so there's actually a number of companies who do it. A lot of big companies who produce their own fruit, sometimes they have less fruit than they want, so they have to buy some bulk wine to try and make sure they're going to get to the numbers they want to get to, right, or whatever the flavors are. There's all kinds of reasons why you buy bulk. But there are a number of companies in California, and I'm sure there's some in other parts of the country, but I just know about the California ones, who actually that's what they do. They basically are brokers for bulk wine. So we basically got truckloads of, well, not truckloads, but a lot of samples. And, obviously I had done a lot of tasting in my day, as had Walt, because he not only had worked for Deloach, but he'd imported a lot of wines from around the world. And so, so we just, it's essentially blind tasting through everything. And then, chemistry experiments, essentially putting a blend together just the way a winemaker does, that we thought was the type of flavor profile we wanted to have for our wine.
And were you able year to year? So this year you purchased this bulk fruit juice from winery A. Were you able? There's contracts.
That's a good question. A few years we would have the same base fruit, but that's the kind of the double-edged sword of being a negociant. You can't necessarily have the same wine from year to year unless you have contracts for that bulk wine. And people do that as well. But we were new to it, so we couldn't do that. So, it was the style we were going for. We didn't want it to be over oaked, but we wanted to have some oak, and but that was, you live and die by not only by the wine available, but also the prices, because it's a fluctuating market from year to year, depending on demand, and depending on the agricultural year and everything. So, So, that was kind of how we got started.
There you go.
Walt wanted to come up with a unique packaging. I had crazy ideas in the past, one of which was a velvet label, which I was just like, no way, Jose, is that happening? But then he came up with a cap idea, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. Tell me more, and that's how we got cap.
All right. I love stories of how people come up with concepts. So you just introduced the concept of CapaBunga, but what went through Walt's mind that said, you know what, I need to invent CapaBunga?
Well, this is kind of one of those I only hear it in movies kind of stories, because he literally fell asleep one night, woke up in the middle of the night with this idea in his head, and wrote it on a piece of paper beside the bed and went back to sleep. And I'm much more of a visual person, so when he told me, I was like, okay. And but you have to remember, I had this. But then we started to talk about it and decided, I want to pursue this. So so he started looking into that, and it really wasn't until the prototype showed up that I was on board and the money to get it to the prototype stage, but I really didn't get the concept until I had a physical one in my hand. So, and I'm still like that to this day. Even when we're doing packaging for products, I have to cut the whole thing out, and I have to see I can't look at it on a screen. I need to see what it looks like on the physical product. So. Right.
Well, that's me too. And Mike is the opposite. So Mike must be like Walt, and I'm like, I can't, and again, he's a chemist, so he's very, organic chemistry, he can see all those shapes, and I need the Lego blocks to, once I see those blocks come together, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it.
And then you act like you knew it all along.
Yeah. Piece of cake,
Exactly.
But yeah, so good thing he had that paper by the side of the bed, that he could.
I know, right? Yeah. I wonder if he hadn't, if it would be all out in the ether still.
Yeah. So when Walt came up with the idea for CapaBunga in his sleep, and he woke up and did it, was the idea originally, I've got this product and we're going to sell this product, or was it, this is good for me?
Oh no, and I actually had to go find our single last cap, because the original cap, actually, I forget what the screen is. Yep. So it says Rua, but you'll actually see it's a little raised because we did an emboss for this, because our whole idea was kind of luxe packaging for the wine. We weren't even thinking this is going to be a business. This was just totally, our wine was $36 a bottle. We wanted to make it look very riche, and it just, whenever I got the first one, Walt was actually out of town at the time because he was consulting for somebody, wine-wise. And I put a cap on a bottle, and I put so many paper towels underneath it, and because I wasn't sure it was going to work. And I remember going to bed and okay, we'll have enough paper towels. It'll be okay. And the next morning when I came down and saw there was no leak with this wine bottle lying on its side overnight, I was like, oh my God, everybody who drinks wine needs one of these, at least one, So that's kind of, so whenever Walt got back from his trip, not only was I on board with making them, I was like, we're going to sell these to other people. And he thought I was crazy. There you go. Crazier things have happened, right? Yeah.
So he goes away on a business trip, and you're like, yeah, Walt, whatever. He comes back, and you're like, yeah.
Let's go.
And he's going, what the heck happened?
He's like, what have you done with my wife? So, that's kind of, and then the name, of course, because then to start with a name for it. And, Walt's got his strengths, and he's definitely a great marketer, but, he was coming up with very manly names like Reuse a Cap and Res a Cap. And I was like, sounds like a car part. And then I just knew that up until 1985, all the bungs in wine barrels had been wood. And I knew in 1985 they changed to silicone. And so then I started thinking bung, and then it's cap, and then I thought CapaBunga, because it's like CapaBunga, but it's like a eureka kind of moment, and it kind of, I had to sell it a little bit to Walt and our design guy, but they kind of were on board fairly quickly.
I think it's clever. I think it's clever, and I think anybody who's actually using this product knows what a bung is, they, and I'm sure the majority of them have seen a bung at some point. you know, so, and then it is CapaBunga, you know, it is like, you know.
It is a little eureka kind of thing, and fun.
Yeah.
I mean, our products, I mean, once we started putting the fun sayings on them, you know, it really kind of bring out the fun in it, you know. It's like you can get very kind of serious about it, and it's very important, you know, but ultimately it's an adult beverage that's, you know, fun to have with your friends. So.
Right.
Yeah. So the name is fun. So that's good.
So you're talking about bringing, putting names on them, or, you know, things on it. One of your product lines for CapaBunga is actually Sonoma Strong, and
right, exactly.
You have, you know, I give you so much kudos, and I clap, and you know, Mike and I went through for the month after the fires. Every bottle we sold, we donated $4 to the cause.
There was I can't even tell you how much goodwill there was, and community effort, and just everybody doing whatever they could do. I mean, for us, it was a lot of work because our caps singly retailed for $5, and it was, you know, the first amount of money we've collected is we've handed over $40,000, but it was $5 at a time, you know.
Right. So. I just want you to on your website. It is there. It is a special link, correct?
It is. So if you go to CapaBunga.com and the navigation bar at the top, there's one that says Sonoma Strong. It still has the name of all the businesses that did it. Not all of them are carrying it still, but you can read about the program there. You can just buy them in a regular shop bar, and you know, you know, obviously we get charged a fee because we have to do it through the credit card companies or whatever. But yeah, we're donating 100% of that to the cause. So, and we actually have one of our bigger customers, Total Wine. We're just about to ship an order to them. They're going to carry them in every single Total Wine store. So hopefully we'll get another 30 or 40,000 raised as well.
Wow, that is amazing. And is that across the board Total Wines, or just California Total Wines?
Yeah, I mean, they're sitting downstairs as I speak, so I'm not sure when they're going to ship out, but they'll definitely ship out in May. So I'd say they'd be in the Total Wine stores in early June. So they're very keen to support as well. So
yeah. So I mean, I think it's wonderful. And the fires were horrible, but as you were saying, it brought the wine, you know, it brought people together. And
it really did. And you know, one of the things I have to say, living in Sonoma County, we live in the Russian River Valley. You know, people have it in their heads that, oh, there's devastation, I'm not going near the wine country. It is really a very small portion. And as you probably heard from the news, you know, in Santa Rosa, it was 5,100 homes. But a lot of where the fires were in residential areas. So, there was some damage to vineyards, but a very few, I don't want to take away from their opinion, but very few wineries were impacted. So come and visit. We need all the tourists.
My personal opinion is the media did more devastation
than the actual fires.
Yeah, you know, so many people canceled trips, and so many people believed this stuff, and it was so.
Well, we're definitely seeing, you know, we're getting into the summer season here, so it definitely, you know, it'll look very normal from here.
Right.
You know, we'll see down the line, but yeah, just everybody come. It's still great. We need your help.
Yes, go drink wine, go.
Exactly.
All right, so on to what I think my favorite product, CapaBubbles.
Basically, you know, we knew about bouchons before, right? So Walt used to import Bruno Paillard champagne when he worked for Deloach. So we were familiar with the bouchons and some other different ones we used. But the problem was with most of those, and you've seen it in every restaurant or bar you've gone to, when they open a bottle of bubbles, you hear a huge pop. Well, all that effervescence is escaping. So what we did was we took the original idea, and I remember the CapaBunga looks like this, right? So then we took the CapaBubbles, which also looks just like a larger version. But when you turn it inside, you'll see. Can you see that there?
Yeah, there's
threads
grooves.
inside.
Yes.
So this little collar, what happens here is you pull the foil down, and there's a little collar that comes with the CapaBubbles, and it just clicks around here. There's a couple of tabs you can put your hand on, and then you just put the cap. So I'm not left-handed, so I have to do it with my right. So you just pull it down, screw it down on top of the coil. But the nice thing about this is, the profile is low, so you can fit it in the fridge door. None of us think to change the fridge kind of configuration.
Too much effort.
But But anyway, it fits in the low profile. But the really nice piece is you can control the effervescence. Just like if you shake it, drop a soda bottle, and then you pick it up and want to open it, you can,
Right.
if you open it, it's going to spill everywhere. But if you kind of open it gently, you can, yeah. So it definitely is my favorite of all of our inventions, which is funny because it actually was a bit of a pain in the ass to make because it's got quite a number. Unlike CapaBunga, it's just one piece. This is actually two pieces, but in mold design, it's more than two pieces. So,
right, because the grooves have to line up, the threads have to line up, and everything. And the cap, the bottom part is hinged.
But yeah, CapaBubbles. I mean, it keeps your bubbles fresh for up to a week. People say 3. I could never go that long, but you say we're all conditioned to finish it, but now I like to open a bottle of bubbles on a Friday and try and see if I can manage through to Sunday so I can have a glass every day.
Right.
So, don't always make it, but I try.
I will say that I now drink, not that I really need to have my arm twisted to open sparkling or champagne, but Mike is not a champagne fan.
He's happy to have it for a birthday or an anniversary or for New Year's Eve or something. But yeah, it gives him a headache. So.
Oh yeah, Mike. I think Mike is just conditioned that if it's New Year's Eve or my birthday, or our anniversary, those are the 3 dates that he's willing to very easily go. He'll buy me all the champagne I want. Like Christmas presents. Santa brings me lots of sparkling.
Nice.
But he just doesn't want to open them. No, let's do this. So it now allows me to have it because I'm not obligated. If I just want that glass before we then move on to a different wine, I can.
You're having sushi, and bubbles are so perfect with sushi. It just means you can have a little glass with your sushi or whatever.
Right. Right. And as I had said offline, my request to you, though, is my only negative comment about CapaBubbles, because I love it, is I am a sabering fiend. And,
are you? I wanted you to teach me how to do that.
Oh my God, it's so much fun and it's so easy. I love doing it, and I can't saber it if I'm going to use the CapaBubbles.
But you also have to drink the whole bottle, right?
Yes. Yes. So my request, Walt, when you watch this, my request is figure out a way to get your cap on a sabered bottle.
And the newest thing, we haven't released it yet, but we're very excited about our newest product. But that's still to be revealed soon. But we're working on a reinvention of the corkscrew.
Oh, okay. I was like, ooh, I know what it is. Can we talk about it if it's not officially released?
Well, it's not released yet. We did show it in Chicago at the International Houseware Show, where we were a finalist for a Global Innovation Award. So
wow, congratulations!
We're excited, but thank you. That was a real thrill. We came second by 2 points, but it was huge to be up with some of the names that were up for the award. But one of the things we've discovered when you're innovators like we are, sometimes the path is not as easy as you think it's going to be. And so we're actually having to invent the process to make the product we've invented. It's a little longer than we wanted, but, Rome wasn't built in a day. So.
Right. Yeah. And you know what?
But,
sometimes what takes a little longer is a lot better.
Exactly. And, the response so far has been huge to it because I think, coming from the wine industry, we've used a corkscrew ridiculous many times. But the corkscrew, the existing corkscrew works pretty well. But we've all had corks that have broken. I'm not saying that ours won't break a cork, but we know the weaknesses of. That's what we've always done is studied what was out there and said, okay, how can we make that better? Or how can we do a totally new product that has never been done before? So, yeah. So that's the corkscrew. So hopefully coming soon.
I was going to say, is there a anticipated date?
Well, if we hadn't have had to invent the process, we would have been saying June. But now we have to invent the process. We don't really know until we get the process invented.
Tell everybody where they can find you. Where are you on social media? Give another shout out to your website, and how can they place the order?
Okay. So we're at CapaBunga.com. So it's CAPA, like CapaBunga, BUNGA.com, all one word. And we're on, we do the best we can with social media. As you know yourself, Lori, you wear a lot of hats, and we try to do the best we can. I'd say we're strongest on Instagram, which is Instagram.com/CapaBunga. We do some Facebook, so same thing, Facebook.com/CapaBunga. Twitter a little bit, not so much. Although I think we may have found each other on Twitter, Lori. But,
yes, that is where.
Yeah. CapaBunga, yeah. And I think we're on Pinterest. That's mostly me repinning things, but at least I'm keeping it kind of centric to our stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And you are available not only on your own website, but on Amazon?
Yeah,
correct?
We're on Amazon, and we're actually working on redoing our Amazon right now. So there'll be some new choices up there. The life of an innovator and inventor is not always paved in gold. So we've had a lot of people try to knock our product up, and they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. I've taken 70 different companies down off Amazon for knocking off our product.
Good for you.
And I continue to do that all the time. But so we have to revisit the Amazon, what we're doing on Amazon. So anyway, it's coming. So yeah, Amazon, Total Wine, lots of independents, wineries, and if it's not in your neck of the woods, go ask your local retailer to carry it.
Awesome. All right. So at the end of every Dracaena Wines on Wine, I like to play a little game. And so for Dracaena Wines on Wine, the game I play is the game of opposites. So basically all you do is get asked two opposites. The idea is for you not to think, just answer.
Okay.
I'll start off with non-wine stuff, and then we'll go to wine stuff. All right? Okay. All right. And there is no right answer. It's just whatever pops in your head. All right.
Good.
Here we go. Night or day?
Night.
Okay. Sunset or sunrise?
Sunset.
Black or white?
Black.
Walk or run?
Walk.
Food or drink?
That's a tough one. I don't know. Food, but as long as it has wine with it.
There you go. Old world, new world?
Old world. I'm Irish, Gotta love the old world.
Sweet or dry?
Dry.
Bubbles or still?
Bubbles.
Oak or stainless?
Stainless, depending on the wine, of course. But yeah.
Drink now, drink later?
That's a toughie. You're wet. That depends on so many things. Just drink.
Just drink. All right. I like that answer. Okay. Blend or varietal?
Blends are tougher, I think. They're really, I think they're tougher. Blends, I'd say.
Okay. Vintage or non-vintage?
Vintage.
Cork or screw cap? Or CapaBunga?
Yeah, we need corks because that's why CapaBunga works.
Napa or Sonoma?
I live in Sonoma, so I gotta say Sonoma.
Commercial or indigenous?
Indigenous.
Bordeaux or Rhone?
Rhone.
And warm climate or cool climate?
I like cool climate for all kinds of reasons, not the least of which is Irish. I love cool climate varietals for sure.
Yes.
Sonoma County coast, yeah.
See, that's not cool. Tough. That's not tough, right?
No, I didn't know what. Yeah, that was much easier than I anticipated.
It's funny because a lot. What?
That's a fun game.
Oh, thanks. It's interesting because certain things kind of go hand in hand. And like you said, night, and then you went to sunset, and you went to black. So those,
yes, of course.
Those three tend to stick together. Right. Pretty much everybody I have ever played this game with, except for Ryan of Art Preservation System, says walk. Ryan said run.
Oh, wow. Well, I walk every morning with Walt, and we try, we don't always talk work, but it's kind of, 45 minutes in the day where we get to, what about this? And,
right.
And then talk about our kid or whatever else.
Right,
It's a nice time.
Your you time away from.
Exactly, away from the office. Exactly.
Yes.
On the phone.
Thank you so very much for
You're
joining
welcome.
in. I appreciate you taking your time, and I'm happy to share your story with you. I love talking to people and sharing, their passion of however it is in the wine industry. There's so many tentacles, fingers, whatever,
Right, and it's wild for us to be out of the wine industry after 20 plus years each, Right. So, but at least we get to still be really close to it, and we live here, so yeah.
Yeah, and you really,
well, I look forward to
you really have all aspects of it, because you sold the wine, sales and marketing of the wine. You made wine from the negociant side. You made wine from the grape side, and now you're selling products to help improve the drinking experience.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So thank you so very much. And
very nice meeting you, Lori.
Very nice meeting you.
Share a glass with you in person one of these days when you're here.
I hope so too. Paso's not so far from Sonoma.
No, absolutely not at all.
Right.
All right. Definitely. We'll stay in touch in social media and look forward to seeing all this when it comes together.
Yes. Thank you. Have a great night.
Right.
Thank you.
You too. Have a nice glass of wine. Maybe
And
I'll have one too.
You know what? Sláinte.
Cheers.
Have a good night.
You too.
Bye. In our third and final segment, I sit down with Stephen Parker, the inventor of Kelvin Wine Thermometer. He took his knowledge of producing safety thermometers and applied it to the wine world. We all know that temperature affects the flavors of wine. We know that you can't just drink white wines cold and red wines at room temperature. There are specific ranges of temperature for different types of wine. So we put a bottle in the refrigerator to cool it down. But how do we know when the temperature is right? Well, that's where Kelvin comes in. With this app, you get notified that it really is wine time. So welcome to the third part of this Dracaena Wines on Wine episode, where we are discussing wine, for lack of a better word, gadgets that help us improve our love of wine, or let us appreciate wine even more. Okay? And today I'm very honored to have Stephen Parker, who is the developer of Kelvin Wine Thermometer, or K2, right? Is that the kind of abbreviation?
Yeah, that's the app-based version, absolutely.
Okay, and this is like my jam. I mean, when you start putting science behind making wine taste better, it is my jam. I mean, I love it. And I have to, before we actually even get started, I have to share a little story with you. So yesterday, I was using the Kelvin thermometer, and my stupidity, so all me, I never turned the app on. Like, I never let it know that it was on. Right. So I put the wine in the refrigerator and with the thermometer, and when I looked at the app, it said it was in the range of perfect. So I took it out and I poured it, and the first thing I did was, wow, this bottle, that really chilled quickly, first of all. And second of all, this feels a little warm. And I took a sip of the wine, and I've had this wine before. And I was like, oh, A, this is warm, and B, wow, this is kind of not a good wine. Like whatever. Yes. And so then I looked at the app, and I was like, what the heck? And I looked at the app, and I'm like, well, duh, I never turned the app on. So it was actually, I guess it was the temperature from the last time I had used the app.
Yeah.
So I turned the app on, I turned the Bluetooth on, and all of a sudden it went from 50 degrees to 65 degrees. And I'm like, and that's why the wine doesn't taste good.
Absolutely. So, yeah, and when it was the right, presumably it tasted much better, did it?
It tastes so much better, and in fact, I'm still continuing it tonight. And yes, it's an incredible, incredible wine. So I am living proof that this app and this technology is incredible. And for lazy people like me, for as energetic and outgoing as I am, I'm still lazy. I want things to come to me and tell me when to do things. To have this app where I get the nice little notification, ding, time to drink.
Fantastic. Well, the really nice thing is that the technology is wonderful, but it's also just a real understanding of how much difference temperature can make, isn't it?
Yes.
There's so many people are just serving their whites straight from the fridge, wondering why they can't taste anything, and then they're serving their reds at room temperature, wondering why they're really not getting any of the sweat that they're supposed to be doing. So that's really what Kelvin's all about.
Right. And I am a huge fan.
Thank you very much.
But we'll get into the technology in a little bit, because I want people to know who you are. So give us a little information about your background. How did you, studies, educate, whatever, how did you get to become the creator of this app?
Well, generally, my business is based in thermometers. So my core business has been based around safety thermometers. My most important product was a nursery thermometer, which we're very proud of. That we sell mostly in the UK, but we do sell in the US and in lots of other countries. And that temperature is very important to reduce the risk of we call it cot death in the UK, but it's actually crib death in the US. Of course, it's a horrible thing. But by using temperature, we can help to reduce the risk and also help to educate people on the things you can do. We're very proud of it, and that's very good. And then we've been working on. We have terrible issues here with hypothermia with old people because they can't sense temperature. So we have a range of safety thermometers that we feel do a great job of and it's all about communicating the temperature in a way that understand. Because obviously 80 degrees, that's like too cold for a bar. It's too cold for an old person. It's too warm for many wines. So it all depends on that's centigrade. Obviously Fahrenheit's different. So depending on the application, it's really important to actually transmit the information in the way that people can understand, and that really is what Kelvin's all around. So we did babies, and we thought, what goes with babies? Well, let's get the baby in bed. What does every mother do? She wants a glass of wine. So we moved on to wines. But temperature, as I said, temperature is so important in our lives. It makes such a massive difference. And it definitely makes a difference whether you're drinking coffee or Coca-Cola or definitely wine. It makes a massive difference. So that's really, I can start to talk about how we came up with the concept of understanding how important it was, and then challenging ourselves to make the best possible wine forms that we could make, and make it as simple as possible for people to get their wines at the right temperature. But just temperature in general, it's fantastically important in all walks of life, So I'm a thermometer guy, and our business has been relatively successful, making lots of different types of thermometers. And then I went to live above. I had an apartment in a development, and at the bottom of the development was a kind of a wine warehouse. We have here called Majestic Wines, and it was huge, and they had a tremendous selection of wines. And I got being kind of so close, I got to be well known, and I got to know the people in the store really, really well. And I would often be recommended wines. And this is about 10 or 12 years ago. And so I was really learning about wine for the first time. I was coming out beer, and I was moving into wine. And I was recommended a Chardonnay, and I remember today it's a Sonoma Cooper from obviously from Sonoma. It's a tremendous, really, really, and someone handed it to me. He said, "We really love this wine. You've got to try it." I met up with the guy a couple of days later, and I said, "You know what? I didn't really get it. I didn't like it that much." And he said, "Oh my God, what temperature did you serve it at?" Now, and of course for me, that's the first point where I realised that temperature, it starts to become important. And if you're going to try and serve a Chardonnay at fridge temperature, then you're not going to get any of the benefit of it. And again, being a temperature guy, this was a massive revelation to me. And I went straight out. I obviously over the next course of this, I was experimenting with the way that the wine would change from fridge temperature as it warmed up, and it blew me away how different it was. And I thought, well, I think coming at this from a kind of not a wine expert perspective, but as a lay person, as a person getting into wine, if I'm just catching this information now, then then I feel there's a tremendous opportunity to help people to understand. So then I'm thinking, and this is really the key, I'm going to serve a bottle of Chardonnay at kind of 14 degrees centigrade, which is around between kind of 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit. How am I going to do it? That was the question that I had to go and answer, because you've got fridge temperature, which is obviously I'm not sure what that is. That's
colder.
Yes, that's obviously much, much colder. And then you've got room temperature, of course. So you've got room temperature, which is up around 72, 75. So how on earth am I actually going to serve a wine at kind of 52 degrees?
Right.
Fahrenheit. As far as I'm concerned, there wasn't a way to do it. Of course, lots of people are lucky enough to have wine fridges, and they're great, of course. But even then, you can't serve a Chardonnay and a Sauvignon Blanc at the same temperature. So how do you serve your wine at that perfect temperature? And that was the problem that we set out to solve with Kelvin, because ultimately, you're going to have to use your refrigerator. Most people use their refrigerator in the home environment to chill their wine. They're going to have to chill their wine. The problem is, how do you know when to take it out? And that's how the whole project started. And so, I mean, we can go on and talk about the product, but that's the background on it, really. As far as I know, there's no other way to actually serve a wine at that temperature. Any other wine thermometer that exists, as far as I know, as soon as you put it in the fridge, all it's going to do is tell you the fridge temperature. But ours has been specially designed to actually measure the wine temperature as it's chilling, and then notify you from inside the fridge to outside. And it happens to be an app, but we have the other product, of course, which works like a fridge magnet. But the app is the latest version, and that's the one that we feel gives the best possible service in terms of the database and everything. But generally speaking, it's all about getting the information from inside the fridge to outside the fridge and making it as simple as possible for people.
I mean, I think for us, like in the past, we would put the wine in the refrigerator, or if we were running late, we'd shove it in the freezer with the wet paper towel around it. And then we'd pull it out, pour the glass, taste it, and go, nope, needs to go back in, and drink that glass that not at its best time, and take it out again and drink it, go, nope, not yet, And then by the time you got it at the temperature that this is what it's supposed to taste like, the bottle's done,
Sure.
So, so this is, I'm thrilled. I mean, I use it all the time. And I'm bi-coastal, so it goes in my suitcase with me. I don't leave it on one coast. Like, it's with me when I'm in Jersey. It's with me when I go to California, because it's amazing how it works. And I do want to say, because I was very impatient, and you were wonderful explaining it. As soon as you understood what my issue was, the alert that you get, which is pretty darn cool, the alert shows up when it's at the low portion of the perfect temperature range. Okay, so I, being very impatient, I was like, the first couple of times I used it, I'm like, I'm not getting it's in the zone, but I'm not getting the alert. So I just wanted everybody to understand, because I'm sure I'm not the only impatient person to pour their glass of wine.
That's exactly the point. You're talking about people, and especially wine drinkers, being impatient. Certainly, and the other thing I think is we want people to. I don't want anyone to think that this is a product that you have to kind of really concentrate on what it's doing, because the whole idea is to take the worry away completely and let you get on with your evening, preparing the meal or whatever it is that you're doing, and just let us worry about the wine chilling in the fridge for you. And certainly so for each wine we have a zone which is 6 degrees wide. So basically you have kind of an ideal temperature, and then 4 Fahrenheit lower and 2 Fahrenheit higher. And the idea is, of course, if we let you know when the bottle is at the bottom of that zone, then when you take it out of the fridge, you've got a maximum amount of time before you've then got to worry about us telling you to put it back in the fridge again.
Okay.
And the thing about notifications is they are a wonderful thing as long as they're not bothering you. And I think as long if I'm when it's going into the zone, out of the zone, off again, then of course your phone's constantly bonging at you. Really, all I want to do is just tell you, do you know what? So just chill it right down to here, take it out the fridge, and for the next 45 minutes, it's going to be. And then in 5 minutes, it'll tell you the screen's gone and it's time to put it back in the fridge again. Simple as possible, few notifications, but the really important one is the one that we concentrate on.
Yes, and it's now that I understood that it was, and that I honestly should have realized that, because that to me is brilliant. I don't want to know when it's 1 degree in the perfect zone, because as soon as I take it out of the refrigerator, it's now going to be out of the perfect zone.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
it makes complete sense. It was me and my I want to drink, you know. And so it makes complete sense. And I agree. The one alert that it's great timing. I open up the door, and you know, like this is it. This is sitting out now, but it's still good because
Yeah.
we know that we're all good. So
Exactly, you get a reasonable amount of time to drink your wine. Of course, and just follow the app, and it'll tell you when to put it back in anyway.
yes,
So
yes,
again, nice and simple. If they really don't want people to have to muck about with their wine, wine's all about enjoyment. It really should be just leave us to worry about the temperature. We'll tell you when the perfect time it is to take it out of the fridge.
right. And so just so people who are watching the video, this is what it is. It's like a nice little bracelet for your bottle. And the directions recommend putting it, if you can, on the, not the label, correct?
That's right.
Right?
Yes, you want to get as good a contact as on the bottle as you can. Absolutely.
Right. And it's very simple to use. We just push a button here, and you hold it for a few seconds, and voila, it's on. And then we have a nice little app. And see, I got my little notification that
Perfect.
it is good to drink. So from the point that you were like, hey, I'm going to convert my concept of safety, which is beautiful, to wine, how long did it take to go from concept in your brain to this?
Well, I mean, most businessmen will tell you far too long to get to develop the product. Now, if you go to our site, you'll see that what we started off with 5 or 6 years ago was a product that we still really love because it's even simpler than the app, if you like, and it's more like a fridge magnet. The fridge magnet goes on the front of the fridge, and again, it's got a similar collar to the one that you've just shown everybody.
Okay.
And that sends the data, simply sends the data from inside the fridge to outside. Very simple to use, only 8 wine styles, 200 individual wine categories that we have in the app. And again, that you'd have to constantly monitor the fridge. You can't kind of watch the door of the fridge until the product changed color. But I think, almost immediately, because it's easy to think, that the apps have always been here. But 5 years ago, really, apps were really just kind of gaining that sort of momentum that we're really seeing now. And we showed the product in Hong Kong, and we had a fantastic show. But everybody came and said, "Oh, yeah, when's the app version coming out?" And so, of course, that was really it was the movement then to get it to the app. And what we love about the app is that it makes it really simple to use, and also there's an opportunity for us to really tell you an awful lot about the wines that you're drinking. So, not only do you have the advice on all the different wine styles, but then we have other categories that we can tell people about, because when you've got tasting notes when you've got tasting notes, and they tell you the sort of thing to look out for. It's amazing how suddenly you can kind of taste that individual thing that maybe you were searching for or whatever. So the advantage of an app is that it's given us the opportunity to supply a proper database from 200 different wine styles, and it's constantly going to grow and improve. And then give you loads of information about the actual wine, what type of glass to serve the wine in, ideally, and then loads of background information on the wines, and interesting facts that you can dazzle your friends with and stuff. But this is because really it's all about 3 things. When part of the thing with this project was about the fact that we can probably all afford to spend $50 or $60 on a bottle of wine if we really, really want to. But our daily drinkers really they don't normally sit in that sort of category. And what I really wanted to do is I really wanted to serve a bottle of wine at home in the kind of $15 to $20 range, and for it to be absolutely fantastic, and to get the absolute most out of it. A bit like to a 5-star hotel. Well, to a smaller hotel, you're not paying quite so much, and then you get a fantastic service, and you're really blown away. That's really the wine experience I wanted. I wanted this fantastic experience from a $20, $15, $20, $25 bottle of wine, and so in order to do that, there's the three things that, of course, you need to concentrate on is air glass temperature. You're aerating the wine and getting the most out of that. Then you're serving it in the right sort of glassware. But the single most important is definitely the temperature that you're serving it at. And so that's where the journey started. This challenge of how do I serve something at 13 degrees? But it was all about how do I serve, not amazing wine, but good wine, but really get the very best out of it so that I can enjoy it every day. So that was our motivation, really.
Right. So I'm going to see. So for people can see, this is what the opening of the app looks like. So you can choose white or red, and it's light-bodied, full-bodied, or anything. But what I think is really cool is down here, you can choose by the grape variety or the region. So there's so many different aspects that you can do, and then this is my favorite part, because I'm so geeky, is that if you hit the information on the thermometer, so I am drinking a Bordeaux white, and then it starts to tell you all this information. It tells you what temperature it should be at, but then it tells you all of this amazing information about your wine, including, like you said, what glass is a great glass for. I mean, this is an all-in-one app. I mean, this is it. It blows my mind. I mean, and like, did you do the technical? Did you do this, or did you do just the thermometer? Like, how does this all come together?
Well, I have some fantastic designers, and they did an awful lot of the design work. The wine information was fantastically supported by our partner, a company called Wines of the World, and they have real wine experts there, and they helped us with all the info. They did an amazing job with the information, I mean, generally, I must admit, the one thing about Kelvin is that I really did. I built it. I kind of designed it for the man on the street, really. The guy, the person who didn't know necessarily a great deal about wine. And I think it makes a tremendous gift for someone who, well, Dad likes a glass of wine, and he always wants to know a little bit more about it. So that was really how we built the product around. But I didn't really expect the wine experts to like it quite as much as they did, because I thought everyone would come saying, we don't like this temperature, I don't agree with this temperature, I don't agree with this, or I already know. But actually, the sort of work that Anna, our social media, the amazing social media woman that we're using, and that she's done, and we've had so much feedback from master sommeliers and things saying, wow, it's amazing. So the feedback from real wine experts has been absolutely tremendous. So we're really proud of what we've done so far.
So, being the geek that I am, the science person that I am, Kelvin,
Yes.
Temperature. I'm assuming that's where it comes from.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Lord okay. Kelvin, the Scottish inventor and scientist. Of course, we have a Kelvin scale, but more also, to be honest, it's also a little bit of a play on words with Kelvin, which is obviously, that van is obviously French for wine, and that's why we have the two colours in the logo, and also Kelvin is actually French for which wine. But that was more of a luck than judgment. We just wanted a name that people would recognise. Okay.
So yeah, my brain always goes to the science aspect of it. It's perfect,
Well, if we were Elon Musk, we'd probably have a setting where we could tell you the temperature in Kelvin, but I think it would all be down in the -200, so I don't think that'd be much use. So
yeah, and I don't think there's too many people that actually know the Kelvin scale and do no.
Absolutely.
Okay, so my next question is, you have all of these wines and things in here. Do you have suggestions to somebody if they can't find their wine in there? I mean, I think you said you had like 200 different wines in there. What can somebody do if they can't? So again, it could be me, but I had popped open a champagne,
Right.
and it wasn't in there. Champagne is not in there, so what is your recommendation for the workarounds? I mean, you obviously can't have every finite wine that's out there. So what's your recommendation?
Well, if you remember, you just showed everyone the homepage for the app, and of course we have the search function for the individual wines. But the reason that we had the color palette of the 8 different wine styles, three white, 3 red, and 2 rosé, was simply because even if you don't have the individual wine in the database, from the color of the wine, that will give you an indication of the wine's body. And generally speaking, again, I'm generalizing, the lighter the body of the wine, then the cooler you would traditionally serve it at. So therefore, I think if you've got a very light looking white wine or a very light looking red wine, then you would choose the lighter of those settings in the data. And that's why the color palette is front and central. For exactly that reason. And of course, if you then don't know, then if you just go with medium white or medium red, you're going to have a pretty good steer. And some of the fun of this is the wine changes so much as it warms up, particularly the process of warming up. The molecules warming up and moving that bit more fast. You'd be amazed how much a wine will change. And even that is an experience in its own right as it's warming in the glass. You're always better off starting low with the red and letting it warm up. And that's when you really can get a feel for how much difference the temp really is made.
Okay, so I'm envisioning in my head the people who like not even your thermometer, just the people who did the research for what is the proper temperature. Like, I want that job. Okay, I'm gonna drink at this temperature. Nope. Yeah, a lot of testing. Okay, so you promote that drinking wine is a certain temperature is a personal preference. And yes. I agree with that 100%. And part of your app is that people can change what you're recommending. So do you want to explain how they can go about doing that?
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, the thing is that generally the wine manufacturers have a recommendation, and something we don't really have in the US, but we do have a lot more here in Europe, is we often will have a recommendation on the back of the bottle to say the temperature that the manufacturer will recommend it to be served at. And sometimes you can find that information. But of course, the correct wine for anybody, the correct temperature for any wine for anybody is the one they like it most at. And so really what we set out to do was to start people off at the level as the vineyards intended the wine to be served based on their recommendations. But then we've built in an awful lot of flexibility. So there's a very simple mechanism for just pulling up a simple page from the base of the screen, and then you can make your adjustment, and then you can save it, and you can save it as your favorites. And it really is, the great thing about that is encouraging people to experiment, because isn't that what it's all about? And the really wonderful thing about Kelvin is even if you don't have it with you and you go to a restaurant, once you've experienced how much difference temperature can make because you've had a reference point to work with, then you can say, hang on a minute, I know this wine should be cooler because I've experienced it before and I know how much cooling it down will be. And then you'll be the person asking for an ice bucket for your red wine, which certainly doesn't happen very much in Europe. It never happens very much in the US. But all wines need to be chilled, including all reds. Even the fullest red wine shouldn't be served at room temperature. It should be served just a little bit lower than that. And of course, just that little difference makes a massive difference to enjoyment.
Yes. Well, room temperature, when this was all designed, room temperature is very different than in today's society where we're heating our house to 70 degrees, so we're comfortable.
Yeah, when you're a French castle, it was a very different situation.
Right. So I was just thinking to take it to a restaurant. Now, not submergible. I just want to make sure, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean you've got to get power into it. It's a rechargeable battery, so it's very simple to do, and it lasts for quite a long time, and it's very simple to recharge. But of course, if you've got to get something, then you're going to wire it charging or whatever, then there's always the risk. It'll take splashing and it'll probably quick merging, but generally speaking, it's not waterproof, so you need to be careful. Yes. I mean, ice buckets are such a funny thing because, of course, the problem with an ice bucket is it's going to be the wine is much colder at the bottom than it is at the top. And how do you get it? I can't give you an accurate temperature under those circumstances one way or the other anyway.
Right.
All I'm doing is maybe with the experience of having a Kelvin, you know when it's the right time to take it out. At least we can do that for it.
Right. Okay. So my next question is just where can people find you on social media?
Well, so we're very much in soft launch phase, especially in America. So we're available in a few stores like Bloomingdale's and places like that. But in terms of our social media, which is where we can find out what we're up to most of the time. Generally, we're on Instagram. So we're on Kelvin Wine UK is on Instagram. On Twitter, we're at kelvinwine.com at Kelvin Wine Third. So if you search any of those terms, you'll find us okay. Facebook, Kelvin Wine Products. And then we have a UK website which really shows you all the kind of the things about the app that we haven't got time to show you today. That's at www.kelvinwine.com. But our amazing American partners, which is very well as well, they have a www.my-kelvin.com. My dash Kelvin, yes. And they're on Instagram on my Kelvin _USA. So there's always stuff going on our social media to keep you up to date with what we're doing. And our plans long term. I mean, Vivino does this amazing thing with OCR, and so we have amazing plans for where we want the app that we're still envisaging. We've got a huge whiteboard where we want to take the app. So, but at the moment it's simple enough, but there will be amazing stuff coming. It's going to be we're really excited about what the things we can do with the functionality.
So, since if I am in America, how does somebody order this?
Definitely, our amazing partners at Wines of the World. They have the product available on the website.
Okay.
So that's on www.my-kelvin.com. Yes, it's available on Amazon and places like that. And I know that to be honest, I'm not sure exactly where they're at because we're in the soft launch phase. But certainly, if you go to the website, the most important thing is there's loads of information there and people can make their decision.
And we live on Amazon, and you said they can find you on Amazon.
I believe so. Okay. Certainly, we have it here available in Europe on Amazon, and we can make it available from there as well. But as I said, I think the advantage of going to the website is that there's so much information there about the product. Because much as we're excited, we're going to get you excited here. But there's a lot more I'd like to show people so that they can help make their decision.
Yes, I've been to both websites, and there is a lot of additional information on it. And the app is incredible. I find myself like sometimes just sitting there and scrolling through the app, reading stuff, like picking different wines and just reading what you have to say about the wines, because it's incredible how much information there is. So,
I mean, the top part of it is the bit that we're most excited about, and that's how much the wine changes with temperature. What the advantage of you're going to get from actually making that little bit of extra effort. And it isn't much extra effort, but it's just that little bit of extra effort, and how you can start to unlock the flavors in the wine that you're just not going to see if you're just serving a red wine at room temperature.
Absolutely. So is there anything that I've missed that you want to bring up?
No, I'm thinking, thank you. I really appreciate you having us on. It's always an absolute pleasure. And I mean, sorry that we were in Napa earlier this year. We tried to meet up, but we didn't manage to meet up. But we managed to try some of your wine, which we thought was amazing. So
thank
it's a real
you.
pleasure to speak to you again. And yeah, thank you very much for having us on.
Oh, thank you. That's I mean, I'm sure you kind of feel the same way when when somebody says they love your product, you get warm and fuzzy. So when somebody says that they really enjoyed our wine, the smile goes ear to ear, the cheeks start to hurt because, you're just, so thank you. I appreciate that.
We're also passionate about wine, aren't we? That's the thing. Wine is wine and coffee. That gets us through the day.
Yes. And that's actually why I wanted to do this podcast and this video, because wine is an incredible living thing, and it brings so many different people together who have all different views of this one thing. And like, my passion is making wine, making a quality wine so that people can enjoy it. And your passion is making it easier for people to enjoy the wine, so that, I have in my head when we're making this wine, what it should taste like and what the people should be seeing. And you're helping those people get there, and it's like, to me, there's so many avenues coming to wine, and that's why I wanted to do this podcast to show that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Well, it's a real pleasure. Yes, it's something we're also passionate about. It's a pleasure to be involved. It really is.
Yeah, and wine is a good thing to be passionate about. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So, are you ready to play a little game?
Yes. Yeah, hit me.
Okay, so we're going to do a little game of opposites. So I will just give you 2 terms, and there's no right or wrong answer. You just, whatever pops in your head first. Okay? All right, so we're gonna start off with non-wine items or opposites, and then we'll kind of move into the wine area. All right? Okay. So, night or day?
Day.
Sunset or sunrise?
Sunset.
Black or white?
Black.
Walk or run?
Run.
Food or drink?
Drink.
Old world, new world?
I knew you were going to ask. New world.
Ah, okay. Sweet or dry?
Dry.
Bubbles or still?
Still.
Oak or stainless?
Oak.
Drink now, drink later?
Drink now.
That's because you're New World. Blend or varietal?
Varietal.
Vintage or non-vintage?
Vintage.
Cork or screw cap?
Cork.
Napa or Sonoma?
Napa, because I love the train. Sorry.
Oh. Okay. And that's like a perfect question, since you just kind of came back from there, right?
I love it.
Bordeaux or Rhone?
Bordeaux.
Warm climate or cool climate?
See, I'm warm, I think. If I'm saying New World, I have to be warm. So I think warm for me right now.
You know what? I love that answer for right now, because there's nothing in this world about wine that says what you like today, you can't like something else tomorrow.
Absolutely.
So that's it. So thank you so much for joining and for, staying up late for me.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Okay. And it was a great pleasure talking to you, and I adore your product. I do use it absolutely all of the time.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. I really appreciate that. That's awesome.
Thanks for listening to Dracaena Wines podcast. If you have suggestions on what topics you would like us to discuss, please reach out to us on social media. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, Google, and Periscope as @Dracaena Wines. I am also on LinkedIn as Lori Hoyt Budd, or email us at dracaenawines.com. If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast catcher to help others find us more easily. We are found on all of your favorite aggregators. To subscribe easily to iTunes, go to bit.ly/Dracaena podcast. That's bit.ly/Dracaena podcast. And that's a capital D for Dracaena and capital P for podcast. Please check out our award-winning wines and find out about our wine club at dracaenawines.com. And remember to always pursue your passion. Sláinte.